Hi, my name is Kristin Snowden. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. And today's topic is very near and dear to my heart. I'm very impassioned by it. A little background is I was working with someone you might know, Rob Weiss, and I was also personally dealing with some of my own relational crisis issues. And I had a deep level of obviously sadness and hurt by it, but also confusion, just a deep confusion. And I was sitting in on one of Rob's lectures, and he started talking about this subject I'd never heard before called gaslighting. And it was like I suddenly, the clouds cleared in the sky, and I felt so much relief from being able to understand and put a language to what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. So I know a lot of you that'll be joining these subjects, these videos, you're coming from a place of a lot of hurt, a lot of sadness, a lot of betrayal. And I want you to know that whatever subject matter I'm talking about, this is never meant for the purpose of pointing fingers, blaming or shaming, and letting you know how you might have fallen short or whose fault is what. It is just meant to help in the process of healing. I have found that half the battle is really putting a language to understanding what was going on inside me, what was going on in front of me and around me. And that really was the most empowering part of my personal healing is to go, oh, whoa, wait a minute. What's happening here is this. I want to stop this cycle, and this is what I want to do instead. So I'll just caveat that. Gaslighting is it's a form of psychological and emotional abuse where someone either consciously or subconsciously manipulates another person into believing that their reality, their experience is not their reality. So it's based on a 1940s film by the name of Gaslight, where kind of a nefarious criminal wants to get at this woman's fortune, a fortune that she doesn't even know exists. So he seduces her, marries her, and all the while they're married, he's doing these kind of behind the scene nefarious activities. He's going up into the attic and searching, and it's causing the lights, the gas lights in their home to dim, and she hears all these noises, and she's constantly saying, what is going on? I'm hearing something up in the attic. The lights are dimming. And he just says, no, I think you're going crazy. You're very, very ill. And you need me to take care of you. And he continues to kind of push that agenda, that mantra, by removing pictures off the wall and saying, why did you remove that picture off the wall? Gift her with brooches and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe you lost that brooch. But in reality, he was kind of slowly and systematically constructing this case to make her believe that she was crazy so he could take over her home and her fortune. Now, that's a very extreme version of gaslighting. Sometimes it can happen in a very under the radar kind of way, and that's more commonly what happens. The end result, though, usually is someone feeling extreme depression, anxiety, and confusion in their relationship. The circumstances that I most often see gaslighting is three types of relationships. Is where there's the partner has narcissistic tendencies, narcissistic traits. So they are highly invested in being right, in maintaining their power and their grandiosity, because the truth is, no one pay attention to the man behind the curtain, which is a very insecure, flawed individual. So whenever you come at them with adversity, with a disagreement, with a difference of opinion, they have what they probably feel is no choice but to gaslight you and tell you, no, absolutely, you're wrong. Everything that you're saying is wrong. This is the real reality. This is what you need to believe. Another type of relationship where I see gaslighting is in addiction. So the person, whether it's sex addiction, gambling, overspending, overeating, substance abuse, it is that it's this core shame belief that if you really knew me, if you really knew what was going on in my life, this addiction that I have going on, you wouldn't love me. You wouldn't want to be with me anymore. So when you see the money missing in the bank account, when you see the web history of all day porn every day, those naked pictures, you see the love letters from the secretary, and you confront this person with your reality, which is you're cheating or you're abusing substances, your rage is out of control, they get into protective mode of, no, your reality is not real. And they gaslight you and manipulate you. You know, maybe if you'd have sex with me more, this wouldn't be an issue. Maybe if you weren't so emotionally unstable, this wouldn't be an issue. Maybe if you wouldn't be so selfish, and I don't think you love me. These are all things that someone tells you, they gaslight you with this information to kind of knock you off the trail and help you or make you think that what your reality is, it's not your reality. And lastly, because I work in infidelity and betrayal trauma recovery, it is extremely prevalent to have constant gaslighting going on. So I notice you're just being overly critical. We're getting in fights all the time. Where were you last night when you didn't come home till 10 o'clock? Why are you getting blocked phone calls all the time? Are you cheating on me? That is that person's reality. But the person who is having the affair is obviously investing in maintaining both relationships, not letting you know that he or she's been doing nefarious, hurtful behaviors. And so they'll gaslight you and tell you, maybe you should go on medication, you're acting crazy, maybe you need to calm down and not be so needy. And so that is the act of gaslighting. And again, it is important that you understand, well, so what are some details? Do you want to jump in with any questions, Tami? I have a lot more.
So much of what you've said, yeah, there are so many examples of that. And, turning the table, obviously we deal a lot with addiction, and, I always think that the act is defending the addiction at all costs. And, right. I need you, like you said, don't look behind the curtain. So, I need to deflect that energy. I need to deflect that viewing, because I don't know what I would do if I couldn't use my active addiction. So, right. I'm going to point everything away from me, right, because I'm going to hang on to that addiction. I don't have tools to use otherwise. So, but so often it is, I'm going to blame you. And if you didn't nag me, if you dress sexier, if you did whatever, and it's never the case. But, I thought it was interesting too. You said conscious or subconsciously, like that. I never thought of it, that people don't even think about what they're doing. I always had it more as intentional, but I totally hear what you're saying, that, I may not even understand what I'm doing. I just, it's the need to protect my addiction, my using, my whatever, my alternate lifestyle, mm-hmm. So, that was very helpful for me too.
Yeah, it's absolutely a way of dislodging shame. I'm obviously not saying condoning it or saying it's okay in any way, but it's essentially, I don't want you to see my flaws. I don't want you to see my shame, my bad choices, and the ways I've harmed you, the reality, right? The true consequences of what my choices have been. I don't want to face them, and I certainly don't want you to put it in front of my face, because I don't have the ego strength to handle it. So I'm going to just gaslight the heck out of you and tell you whatever you're seeing and whatever you know to be true is not real. And it is, to me, it's a form of betrayal trauma. So it definitely falls under the umbrella of why being betrayed is so traumatizing. But the thing I want everyone to know is it is that truly, it's that behavior that makes people feel like they are going crazy. When I work with people in infidelity or recovering from uncovering their partner's addiction, it is all about the lies that he or she told me. How could you come home every day after sleeping with that woman, or after, spending tens and thousands of our dollars, and just come home and pretend, when I was begging you, asking you, what's going on? Why are you being this way? Why is this happening? I know my instincts, the bells are ringing, and I know something is not making sense. And you just keep coming at me with a different reality. And it's really tough, because in a relationship, as we've mentioned many times, there's understandable forms of love and dependency, and wanting the relationship to work and seeking that person's approval. And unfortunately, that can often be the breeding ground, right? Is that I'm going to let your reality, so whatever you're telling me my reality should be, trump what my instincts and intuition are telling me. my desire to not make you mad or not make you angry or make this marriage work is going to allow me to go, okay, I guess I'll believe that explanation, even though everything in me is telling me that that makes no sense. And it is extremely traumatizing. It blows your instincts and intuition out of the water. It really makes you question the simplest decisions that you make, the simplest thoughts that you have, and that is one of the biggest things I think, that where there has to be healing and recovery when these toxic patterns and behaviors and partnerships are surface, when it comes to, comes up and you realize what's happening.
I think too, I think you're right. And I think too, often the addict is like, well, first of all, has all along been saying, trust me, I love you, all of those things. And then they, they make a shift and they start getting in recovery, and they're going like, wait, now you should trust me now, and the poor part, and the partner's put in a very difficult position of, I do love this person and I want to trust them, but I trusted them before and, that didn't work out so well. No. So how do I go from, well, believe me now, I mean, from the chaos and, oh, my gut's turning to, okay, this person's really trying. And, so I want to develop that trust, but, there's got to be a bridge, because you can't get from one side to the other without, some tools in between.
Yeah. And that path is extremely long, because again, I think, ironically, gosh, there's so many pieces that move, right? So first, that partner who's been betraying and lying needs to clean up his or her act and be on a long-term, everything about what he or she says is different from the old version of him. Every choice that he or she is making is different than the choices he was making in his addiction or during his infidelity or when he was at his narcissistic height. And then at the same time, often being gaslighted regularly and consistently, you've lost your bearings, you've lost your boundaries, your intuition. You're not really sure which way is up or down, because someone's been telling you that your reality is off and wrong. And so a lot of the healing comes from rebuilding those pieces of yourself. I mean, I have some like general steps. I don't know if you want
please
me.
Do, yes.
Okay. So basically, one of the things that most often happens is, again, and when there is that love and the wanting the relationship to work and the seeking approval from your partner, which is all understandable, maintaining that connection, is that when there is adversity, when the two of you have disagreements, so I don't understand where this money is, and I'm really furious that you have no explanation for it. And then the person, says, well, I think you're just being micromanaging me, and I'm tired of you trying to be the boss of me. I have the right to spend money the way I want to spend money. You have to kind of stop, and instead of worrying about, that they're angry and feeling like you need to service their anger and be so empathetic with, oh, I'm so sorry that you're angry by the fact that I found $2,000 missing and I'm angry to find that out. You have to kind of stand your ground and say, no, I've kind of vetted this in my internal system through my instincts and intuition. I feel like this is a reasonable concern. I don't feel safe finding this out. And you may be angry, but we're going to have to agree to disagree here. And be very comfortable with your vetting system, so to speak. So you can never put more value in what your partner's experience is and what your partner's perspective is, and let it trump your experience and your instincts and intuition. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about that as like, okay, so if I'm in a position where I don't know which end is up, and I've got to turn around and start trusting myself, I'm thinking, I would need some people in my life, a support system that I can go, this is what I'm feeling. This is what happened, and try to say it in the most,
Yes.
fair way. Not like he did this, but you're like, this is what I discovered. There's $2,000, unaccounted for in our checking account. I don't know what it is. I believe I should, talk to him about this. And, just getting the help and support of other people until I can learn to trust my own gut again and my own, get my bearings, that to me would have been really helpful.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of, I've broken it down to 13 steps, but let's just say that's one of them, is that certainly when you feel like your barometer, your, moral compass and your boundaries are all off because you've been told it's dark outside when it's broad daylight, is to put a community around you, whether it's therapists that are professionals in that subject matter or trusted friends who can kind of listen to the information and take it in right in like a not 100% emotional, I'm here to protect you kind of mama bear stance, and just say, yeah, that's reasonable. That doesn't make sense. A lot of my clients, when they come in where they think that their partner is cheating, they'll sometimes ask questions like, I opened up my husband's website and saw just a laundry list of porn. Like and I've asked him straight out, have you been viewing porn regularly? What's going on? And he'll just say, and his response is highly defensive, explosive. How dare you open my computer? How dare you look, try to sneak around behind my back? And they'll say, should I be upset and confused? And to many people, there's a very obvious answer to that. But to some, you can see where they've gotten so lost by they feel like this isn't okay. They're not comfortable with it. But then the partner, the person they love, is telling them how they should be reacting and what they should be thinking about it. So yeah, definitely a community. The other thing, I'll run through them really fast because 13 is long, but create a list of personal values. So again, this can make you feel like you've turned upward, tail upward. And so I think to start at the very bottom of what are my values in life? What do I want my life to look like? What do I really value in myself? What do I value in others? You can use, maintaining spiritual practices, spending time with loved ones, telling the truth, being compassionate, being generous, honoring commitments, etc. Then you kind of can follow it by a list of non-negotiables, so let's say I was lecturing my children about what they wanted to, what I think they should have as a partner, and think of that list. Well, it's someone that should be honoring commitments, someone that should value their time with their family, someone that maybe, if I do value a spiritual practice, someone that has a similar practice as well. Generosity, physical activity, who knows? But it kind of helps you start to kind of set that boundary and that compass again of understanding where you stand in the world. The other thing related to keeping a community around you is I am a proponent of some kind of journaling, right? Because when you're journaling or speaking freely to somebody or talking to your cell phone, that was actually what I would do, is I would open up my voice memos and I would just talk out like what's going on for me, partly to kind of down regulate my anxiety and my stress and my hurt. Learn how to file it away, but partly to see what starts coming out of my mouth when I don't feel restricted by, the judgment of somebody else or the disapproval of somebody else, of just, wow. And what are the themes here, of what comes out when I'm kind of just open-endedly speaking, practicing the mindfulness. So that's another way, is mindfulness is just kind of this non-judgmental, unrestricted awareness of what's going on with me right now. So I it really is to hone that skill, that instinct of what's coming up for me. So if I do, find the web history of porn and I feel sudden rage, but then more, I find that I'm more just scared about the idea of confronting my partner with it and the kind of argument that it's going to create, and the hurt and despair that, the anger he might be showing me. It takes a lot to kind of process those feelings. God, why am I more fearful of approaching my partner about the truth, then I'm angry about the truth, and kind of weighing those two things and processing it. That can only be done with a mindfulness practice of identifying where in your body you're feeling it and not judging it and being okay with it. And then also just kind of building a tolerance for it. I mentioned spending time alone, because that same thing is just a non-judgmental, how did this make me feel? Spending time with friends and family, get comfortable with being flawed. You know, this whole concept of seeking someone's approval and wanting to be approved by someone, or needing to be right or wrong, those are breeding grounds for being gaslighted. And so if you're comfortable with the fact that you could absolutely be wrong, it's okay. I'm comfortable with you being mad at me. I'm comfortable with saying the wrong things sometimes. I can always try to apologize and make amends. Then you don't feel so defensive, or you don't feel so needing to kind of alter your truth. And there's just a couple other things too, is completing like a step 4 from the 12-step program, making a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself, just kind of know thyself. Step 9 of making atonements, you know, apologizing for your shortcomings, and just don't defend or debate what you know to be true. You know, I had a friend who was going to talk to her sister who knew she was a heroin addict. How did she know? She has track marks all over her arms. She's walked into her room and seen the needles so she knows what is to be true. And she said, well, what do I do, Kristin? She's in a hospital bed. She just overdosed. And what do I say when she needs help? And she says, no, I don't have a problem. And it's just, look, you don't need to defend what you know to be true. You know, that, because that's just the definition of insanity, you know, going into the same cycle. But you know, the end of it is that, look, you're a heroin addict. Do you want help or not? I'm offering it to you, but don't sit here and tell me with the track marks on your arm that you're not a heroin addict. That's just insane. And then don't confuse wanting to be empathetic with someone with setting yourself up to be gaslighted. So wanting to respect someone's experience and respect their perspective and being empathetic to their journey never ever invalidates what your experience is, what your truth is. So you can kind of say, I respect that that's your experience. I respect that's what you're going through right now, but that's not mine. And I don't have to take it on. And never ever let anyone invalidate your experience or feelings.
Yeah. I love that you're kind of wrapping up with that too, because you know, I've talked before to people, and I said, you know, if we're talking in feelings, you know, you can't devalue my feelings. I'm feeling whatever it is I'm feeling. You know, we can work through it and all of that. You know, if I said, Kristin, you know, what you said to me really hurt me, you know, you could say whatever you want to do, but hopefully we'd work through whatever that issue was so that we came to a different place. But you know, I'm in any feeling. I'm not saying, you know, you're all wrong, whatever. If I relate to you from that standpoint, you know, we have a framework to work from. So I really liked, well, I liked a lot about what you said too, but, you know, I think about so many people that, like I said, write to us and, you know, and are talking about, you know, he's telling me this, or he's not always, most of the time I'm afraid to talk to him because he gets so angry about, you know, sorry, probably UPS. So.
Oh, do you want, the other thing, let me think, I was going to tell the story of someone I knew who was recovering from infidelity. They'd been 2-3 years down the healing path. And as I mentioned from the betrayal trauma webinar a few weeks ago, when you've been cheated on or you've uncovered an unknown affair, it can be extremely debilitating, and you can show signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, where you are kind of having these emotional responses when they're unexpected, you know, these memories. And this client saw a commercial which reminded her of a place that her husband had had an affair at. She'd gone somewhere with the affair partner, and her gut instinct was she felt upset. It rekindled her hurt and pain. And she kind of shared that in a controlled way with her partner. And again, they'd been years down the line. And the first response of the partner was like, "Oh my God, when are you going to get over this?" It was years ago. It was a mistake, So again, that is a form of gaslighting, because her experience is, I'm seeing this thing up on the TV. It's kind of reminding me that I experienced these sad moments in life, and I'm in a sad moment. Don't invalidate that. Now, do you have to fix it? Is there anything you can do to wipe it away? Absolutely not. And that's actually what she ultimately told them, is like, you don't have to invalidate this. I'm in sadness because this is part of my story and it's triggering my memories, but don't tell me there's anything wrong with it. This is reasonable for me to see this commercial and be triggered by these horrible memories of one of the most horrible times in my life. And you can't take that away from me. You don't have to take responsibility for it. And so it shows the transcending moment of where someone kind of learns what it is and doesn't allow the gaslighting to kind of trump their feelings and experience and emotions. But you have to know it exists in order to kind of fight it off and fend it off.
Well, and I have to think how empowering that was for her to be able to say, no, this is my reality, and I'm owning that I'm hurt, or I'm sad right in this moment. Don't fix it, but I'm taking responsibility that this is where I'm at. So that had to be, I tend to look at my life and go, wow, I've made some progress in these areas. So that had to be, something that, even though it was uncomfortable in the moment, with her husband, ultimately there was progress.
Yeah. And I think conversely, I think he'd also said it was a good reminder for me that I'm not responsible for her.
Oh, yeah.
That even though she has this kind of trauma for bad choices that I made, I don't have to, that should not trigger my shame. It's not a cue. Her having that bad memory is not a cue for me to suddenly fall into my own shame, because I've done all this personal work to not make those same mistakes and not harm her in the way that I did. And so I need to be comfortable with myself and my progress as well. So
that's remarkable. And that just shows
slow going.
Yeah. None of this happens overnight. And I wish it could, because, but on the other hand, the values and the growth that we experience, it is, a little at a time. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, you can type them in the Q&A.
Yeah. Any questions about, I guess, what gaslighting is, or even examples? Sometimes it's kind of, it's really educational to hear people's examples of how gaslighting has kind of manifested in their life. Because again, this is something that's also really important. Our culture, we love our little measurement systems, right? So we're like, oh, if there's abuse, so if there's physical abuse of someone getting punched and there's, scars and cuts and physical violence, well, then that's abuse. Or if it's emotionally abusive, if someone's calling names and screaming, you're a B word and you're a horrible, slut, and all these horrible concepts, well, then that's emotional abuse and you got to get out of there. But gaslighting is so under the radar. It's so insidious. It's neither name calling nor physically abusive. But it is just as crazy making, as abusive, as traumatic, to constantly say, this is my experience, this is my reality, this is what I've seen, this is what I'm observing, this is what's going on in my life. And to someone just sweep in and say, you're wrong, you need help, you're crazy, it is just as traumatizing. I might not walk out with the bruises and cuts that would allow everyone to say like, oh, you're in a bad relationship, you should change that. But it is just as brutal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had a case, and this was a couple months ago, where somebody contacted that it was a woman reached out. Her husband had an affair with her best friend. And so she was feeling the double gaslighting, because both of them were,
right,
two people
circling around her.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and they would, I'm sure, be telling her that, no, whatever you're seeing or hearing is not real. So, but I thought,
Those moments when you turn the corner in the room and saw us alone in the room
yeah,
together, or when you saw us
too
being breaking
close. Yeah.
physical boundaries, and like that discomfort you have with what's going on is not real.
Right.
But the reality is she had instincts and intuition and absolutely knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So somebody, if this relationship ends, it will be all your fault. And
Mhm.
that is, I hear that one a lot too. My biggest fear is depending on one person to meet my sexual needs.
Right. Right. And so those are probably just examples of which she's feeling like we're gaslighting things.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And it's really, guess I guess my question would be for that person too is did they realize it in that moment that that's gaslighting, or was it just an absolute shutting you down, um, shaming moment of this is all my fault, I need to do better, and it's just suddenly again it takes the picture off the partner who's been doing these nefarious manipulative things, and puts the focus on you of all the things that you haven't done yet and all the things you're falling short in, and just kind of slams you in that shame swamp, which again is it's how do you ever fix the problem if you aren't even validated that that is the problem.
Well, and this person said that she had no idea, but culturally too. I mean, well-meaning therapists
Oh,
can be
absolutely.
part of the problem and say, well, maybe you should try. He wants you to do this. You should try that. Or, well, you've gained 10 pounds, and he finds that
Hmm.
whatever. And clergy are
Hmm.
often, I mean, they're, uh, uh, you mentioned spiritual practices too, and there are well-meaning clergy that I
Yeah.
really believe are trying to fix the relationship, but say to the partner, if you would just do this, or kind of buy into that whole gaslighting thing, or he says he's an upright standing male, church leadership or whatever, and do the same
Right.
thing. My point is that it isn't necessarily just gaslighting with your partner.
Hmm.
It can be a greater group of people kind of all feeding you this message.
Right. And you have to be careful that these people around you aren't kind of co-gaslighting you with the comments of, oh, well, this is what you should do about this. This is what's really going on. It just, again, it can just cause you to really just shut down and dissociate and kind of curl up into a ball, and destroy your trust for sure.
So there's a question: what if the spouse of the person in recovery is seeing current events in a very skewed, amplified way that seems wouldn't be viewed as reasonable by most people? How do you suggest responding to your spouse to try to recenter or provide more perspective or information that might help to explain this misperception?
Yeah, I know. You're right, because that's a tough question, because I have a lot of people again who have been cheated on, and whether or not they've stayed in the relationship or they haven't. But as you can imagine, any relationship that they had subsequently, whether it's a relationship they're trying to repair with the partner that cheated on them or with another person, they're going to have a very heightened, kind of trauma informed experience with that person, right? Because they know people lie, they know people present differently than might really be happening on the background, and I find them very confused about how to kind of vet and filter through what makes sense, what's truth, and what's not. And again, that's part of them rebuilding their intuition. So I actually like seeing them kind of struggle between the two, because they'll start figuring it out. Um, is That's when I think a really good therapist who asks the right questions can really help. Is again, you just kind of start. I always start, and I hope this makes sense, is I always look for congruency. So again, that's why it's important to know like your values and your non-negotiables and things like that. truth, work ethic, you know, following through with commitments, someone making their family a priority, is I go through those value systems to kind of create a check and balance system for what they're struggling with, you know? So I can't, there's no specific example, so I have a hard time with that. But I keep seeing my partner has blocked phone calls, let's say. And he has a history of cheating with his secretary or something. So that triggers me. So I just kind of go down. Well, did you talk to your partner about it? What was his response to it? Is your partner okay with an open discussion of letting you check your, you know, his phone number regularly? You know, the person needs to go back to what makes him or her feel safe again. And because remember, the goal is to never let anyone invalidate your feelings and your experience ever again. And so sometimes I find when clients uncover this stuff and they realize what their instincts were telling them was really what was happening, they'll tend to kind of swing the pendulum to the far extreme where it's like, oh, hell no, I see this and it's unacceptable. And, you know, there's a really strong response because they never, ever want to be victimized again. It's understandably so. And I guess initially, as long as it's not done in a violently abusive way themselves, that's okay, because they're just kind of finding their middle ground. And I think eventually it swings back to like what we call is trust but verify. So I'm seeing this, my intuition is ringing pretty loudly. Let's figure out a way to I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I need to verify these things so I can feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and I think if you're the person, if you're the addict, then I think a lot of it is, I can see this is difficult for you. What can I do that would help you feel safe? What is it? What can we do together? And I agree. The pendulum is going to swing, and it's going to be. And they deserve to have that anger and to not feel like things are safe. So how can you, as the person who needs to help rebuild that trust, help them, in that? And if it is, I will show you my phone. If I'm more than 5 minutes late, I'm going to call you, or I'm going to have my iPhone with Find a Friend, and you can GPS track me, whatever it is, but I think just being willing to say, I will do whatever it is that will help you feel safe, can help take, some of that out. And hopefully the partner is also getting support from other partners. One of the things that we're building on this site and will be coming in the next few weeks, I promise, is a betrayed partner's support. Rob calls it the drop-in group, but it'll be a place where people, there'll be a men's sex addiction. We're going to have a gay men's. We're going to have a spiritual one, but that won't probably start till December. But also a betrayed partner, so that people that are in a position where they are the betrayed partner can have a drop-in group and with a moderator, but you'll be able to see each other and you'll be able to have a discussion. And it's driving me crazy that he or she, but probably he, blah blah blah. Well, okay, well, I found that if I so it'll be the connection so that you can find some solutions within the community. So but for now, I think the onus is on the addict to do whatever it takes to help. What can I do? I hear what you're saying. What can I do that will help you feel safe in this? And just try to build it that way too. But it's a process, and I love the idea of working with a professional too, a trained professional that knows how to balance this. Because unfortunately, some therapists will take the side of, well, you should, so you really do want somebody that is right for both people, to that can help, I think, navigate the territory.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to knock therapists, because I'm sure I have improperly, and I'm just saying, I mean, I'm sure at times I have, in my flawed states, invalidated someone's experience, not given a proper response. There was someone was telling me a story of a woman who uncovered actually a husband and a best friend were cheating, and they were working towards healing, but the client was coming in who was cheated on and saying, I'm just having a really hard time, like trusting him, loving him, like kind of hate him right now. And the therapist kind of gave her this like, well, maybe you should try to hug him once a day. Maybe you should, again, so it's this onus again, it's
Yeah.
this blaming of like, and that obviously was not what the therapist meant, was this,
Yeah.
this is your fault. Maybe if you hugged him more, but of course, because of that sensitive state that person was in, because their heart was broken 50,000 pieces, to hear, oh yeah, maybe I should have thought of that while my friend and husband were banging each other behind my back for a year. If only I'd hugged him.
Yeah.
And so it's that tough thing where, you need to know what gaslighting is. So be like, you are gaslighting me right now. I'm not okay with it. I freaking tried to hug my husband already. And that has nothing to do with why I hate him right now. I hate him because he's been lying and sneaking around behind my back, and I don't trust him still. So it's just instances like that make this process and progress so delicate and difficult.
Well, and I remember a long time ago, someone saying, when you're doing mental health, you can't go take an x-ray of this and go, yes, you have a broken whatever, like a broken bone, and fix it and put it in a cast and poof, it's fixed. It's like, this is something that is, it's all discovery. And, I have an amazing therapist, and but if I go in and say something, she may help me weave, well, this is really what it is, but I wasn't even in touch with that. So it's really a challenge, and we're all humans, we're all gonna, we're all doing the best we can on any given day. And some days it's, works a little better than others, but, like I said, with a good trained mental health professional, I think, most hours of most days, it's gonna do good things. So anybody else have any questions? We love answering questions.
I know. Even open-ended, is this concept of gaslighting helpful to these listeners? I'm just curious about that.
How do I confront a couples therapist who said, I'm just going to ask, are you concerned your clock is ticking? I never mentioned marriage, kids, or a future with this person at all. Oh my goodness.
Right. So again, this is that mindfulness practice, right? Is first when you take this information in, and this is just something that I've tried to work on too. So that when that sentence, that comment hits me, I go, whew, okay, I'm in shame, or I'm freaking furious right now. And before I respond, I try to take a minute to kind of say, wow, I find that comment really offensive. Why do I find that so offensive? Well, first of all, I feel like you're just kind of labeling me based on my age or demographic or whatever, instead of seeing me for what I presented to you. Because I think you mentioned it, you find it notable that you've never even mentioned marriage, kids, or a future with this person at all. So you're kind of, I'm surmising that you're just like, why are you asking if my clock is ticking when I'm not even shown that that's in my value system right now? And then the other thing is sometimes therapists or anybody, you come presenting with a very real, very serious problem, something very painful in your life. And similar to that example I tried to give, they try to kind of like downgrade it to just this like single issue. And I think you feel very upset or angry sometimes because you're like, you're not seeing me. You're not seeing what I'm sharing with you. You're not understanding like what I'm trying to tell you and what I'm trying to show you. And again, it can feel very unsafe when you're speaking one language to somebody and you're getting back a very different one. So how to confront a couples therapist? I would be curious if you could just do like an open monologue of like, hold on. Those words that you just said to me are bringing in like a huge wave of emotions. Identify them. Angry, offended. I feel like I'm being patronized. I feel like I'm being blocked into a stereotypical hole that I don't think you really understand what I'm trying to say or where I'm coming from. And I'm wondering, what do you mean by that? So kind of understand your experience and then ask for clarification.
Well, and therapists are human, and have their own preconceived notions, and we all have our biases or whatever. So
Totally.
it could, they may have struggled with it, with that personally, right. And I mean, who knows? I'm not putting words in their mouth, but I think my perception of when I'm paying my therapist, I am paying for services, and I do have a right and responsibility, and I think it's a responsibility to help my therapist give me the best help. So for me, it like you said, it'd be like, wait, that's bringing something up in me that doesn't resonate, and now I'm kind of angry. I might even be righteously angry at, at that. I mean, depending, I don't know what your circumstance was in the moment, but, if, like when I read it, I kind of went, whoa, and I'm just reading it, but like, I'm thinking if I was sitting there and somebody said something like that to me, I think I would be, I'd have the immediate anger response, and I'd be going, that's bringing stuff up in me, like you said, and, I need to talk about, we need to stop here, and we need to talk about this, because I want this to be productive time, and this is feeling like it's off another track. What I want it, why I'm here and what my goals are. I think part of it though too is like when I, initially engaged with this particular therapist that I have now, I had goals. I mean, I this was why I was there, and those, I think I was pretty clear about what I was looking for, and so I think that that's been helpful for her to help guide me on that path. So I'm wondering if, if you've been, and I'm not blaming you, but if there's been a clear discussion about, why you're there, what you're seeking, what the end result is, like what's the goal,
Yeah. What's the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's just, you need to be seen, for your truth, for your authentic struggles, what your goals are exactly.
It was free, and you get what you pay for, and on some level, but I mean, I think that I know some VA therapists, and they are doing the best they can to help support our military. So
yeah, and I'll say too, I was a therapist for like 7-8 years before I started working with Rob. And one of the reasons why I have such a passion for working with Rob, why I have so many positive things to say about Rob, is because even despite getting a master's degree in 3,000 hours and working at a ton of different locations, including on a military base, he brought me a language and issues, betrayal trauma, gaslighting, codependency, or prodependency too, as he's also been talking about, an approach to addiction that I'd never ever heard about in my life, that not only was the medium to change his clients' lives, but helped me have a better language as a therapist. So, I am very protective when I get my comments on YouTube or whatever. I don't just say, yeah, just go find a therapist. I want to make sure that they know about concepts surrounding betrayal trauma, sex addiction, infidelity, gaslighting, etc. All these things that we talk about, because it can be a game changer. And therapy can not be a safe, productive place unless sometimes those things are known.
So she added, she wishes the VA system's limitations in treating partners of PTSD. It's not just the VA. I mean, honestly, don't you feel too, Kristin, that, partner, it's like an addict or a vet with PTSD or the narcissist or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the attention gets placed on them because they have a problem. And so, and then the partner is dealing with that. I mean, really, you mentioned codependence, and Rob wrote that book because, he really does want to support the people, the loved ones of the addicts that, have been told all along, it's, it's you, if you would just do whatever, or let's look at your family of origin, issues, because you must have a problem, whatever. So he really wanted to come alongside and look at it a different way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, bottom line, if you're in a relationship with someone who's struggling with any kind of mental health struggle or addiction, there are going to be, you are going to manifest struggles as a consequence of that, right? To be loving and be invested in a relationship with someone who is in struggle, unless you're a robot, it's going to affect you. And there's got to be an appreciation for that dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't see any other questions. You mentioned your YouTube channel. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about that, where else they can find you?
Yeah, most of these webinars I try to post on my YouTube channel as well. I don't just focus on sex addiction. I find I have a passion for kind of helping people that I like to say are just kind of just under the radar. So there's no obvious addiction, no obvious mental health issues, but they just know that they are unhappy with their relationship. They're unhappy with the patterns. It's not working for them. They're in a state of struggle. And I want to be a place of education and information exchange for those people. Because again, I feel like my eyes were opened when I started being exposed to the information that I've talked about before. And that was after years and years of having a psychology master's degree and working in therapy. So I hope others have other eye-opening experiences where they can find healing with this new language and understanding.
So another question, any advice on how to show or express empathy to your spouse?
Those were some of my last steps that I went over, which is when you feel strong in who you are and you feel like you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses and you're quite comfortable with them, so you don't have to hustle for your worthiness and prove your worth. When someone else is in distress, you can kind of be comfortable with not taking responsibility for it. So you can just look and kind of almost verbalize, I see that you're really sad. I see that you're confused, or maybe you're not feeling safe. What would you like from me? How can I help you? So our instincts, I think, when we are trying to be compassionate or when we are watching someone struggle, we're usually not very comfortable with that. It brings up like, "Ooh, I need to fix it," or maybe I did something wrong, or maybe, somewhere or something I can make it better. But really, compassion is just, one flawed person sitting in the room with another flawed person and just validating that they're sad. And
Yeah,
there's
and I think the looking in there, so I think about when I'm having a bad time, when my husband, and he just he'll say, and he always says it in a nice, calm voice, and I try to do the same with him too. It's just like, but it's looking at each other, looking in their eyes, and just going, he'll say, you can see you're having a really tough day, do you want to tell me about it, or how can I help? Some of those things, but like that he's paying complete attention, not trying to fix it, just listening. You may say, I want, may I give you a hug? What can be helpful for you, in this? But honestly, making sure that there's no edge, because I know with me, when I get a little testy, or what it's like, what do you want now, or why can't you, whatever, like I have to make sure that I've taken my voice down a couple notches and I'm in the calm, I can hear that this is really troubling for you. What can I do? Or can I just listen, and I think, like you said, just being there, but making sure you're doing it in a calm and caring way, and not
right.
the motivation of like, get over it.
Right. So, you can't be invested in the outcome.
Yeah.
You're just present, which is so hard. So
Yeah.
easy to say, so difficult to execute.
And you're not responsible in that moment for your partner's, and you know, if you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself and to make it a safe space, you know, just creating that environment, you know, it does get better. It really does. So, thank you very much for championing under the radar trauma, because sex addiction and abuse are not as visible as drug and alcohol addiction. I had no idea my ex had an addiction until I confronted him for an underage porn, and he ended the relationship the next day. And that's challenging, because like you don't even get to work through, you know, I mean, it's like, yeah, that's very challenging. So I'm sorry, but I'm really proud of you for doing this, because it's really easy to go, well, that relationship's done, so now I don't need to deal with it. So for you to explore this and you know, work on taking care of this is really, that's very helpful.
It takes a tremendous amount of courage that, even though those were his mistakes, his nefarious behavior, for you to be coming onto webinars like this and saying, okay, I want to keep my side of the street clean, and I want to make sure that, you know, I find healthy relationships and I engage in healthy patterns, and I just want to educate myself.
Yeah, and you're not taking the baggage of like that every male is not trustworthy or what. I mean, because you know, there's great guys, you know. So you know, I think this is great to find that new balance. So. Okay, thank you, Kristin. I know you've got kiddos to go pick up too. So so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right, first and third Wednesday of every month. And I also do post these on my YouTube channel if you want to review them again, add comments, add additional questions that popped up later. You can do that all. I read all the comments and questions, so please feel free to do so.
Great, thank you all. Bye.
Bye, thank you.